I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, visiting a woodturner named Wayne Loveless. Wayne works at the local Woodcraft store. I'm going to stop in and see if I can spend some time with him learning how to use a skew properly. So Wayne, I've been turning for a few years now, and I really enjoy it, but I was hoping you could teach me a little bit about using skews.
Okay. Eric, I think the biggest challenge in using the skew is lack of confidence on the person using it.
Okay.
When I first started using the skew, I thought part of the technique was going to the other side of the shop, picking a piece of wood back up and bringing it.
Right.
So
you get a lot of catches on it?
Get a lot of catches, and I think what helped me is when I finally learned what caused most of the catches.
Okay.
Now, I do want to give a shout out to two men that has been very instrumental in my knowledge, Nick Cook and Richard Raffing.
Okay.
You know, I was able to spend some time with those gentlemen. They would be considered masters, and I learned a lot from those guys. But yeah, you know, catch, they happen.
Sure.
You know, I'm going to have a catch today. I just don't know when.
Right,
okay.
Right. It's a secret surprise,
Yeah,
right?
But basically, you know, there's a couple techniques I'd like to show you as far as before we start, and then just relaxing, having fun with it.
Right on. Now, to me, a skew, it's just such an efficient tool, but sometimes I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to be using and when or why.
Eric, I think I equate the skew chisel with the knight piece of a chess set.
Okay.
I think it's one of the most powerful pieces, but less utilized. Mm-hmm. As far as the difference in the chisels, I believe it's a matter of opinion.
Oh.
For there's excellent master turners that will swear by the oval skew.
And that's speaking to the body of it, the cross section of it.
Exactly, it's cross section. In fact, when you lay the skew chisel flat on an oval skew, you can see it teeters.
You can rock it a little bit.
You can rock it a little bit.
Okay.
And some people prefer this skew because, in their opinion, they roll a bead easier.
Ah, okay. And with a flat-sided skew, you're sort of sitting there, and if you try to roll it, you're just rolling on one edge.
One
here.
edge, that is correct.
Okay. Okay. And then why do some skews, like this one here, this has a radius cut on the top of it so that the edge of it has a radius?
That is correct. Basically, two grinds in the skew chisel. The cutting section here is straight, mm-hmm. and then you see that one's radius.
And what would be the benefit of this over a straight?
The thing that I like about the curved is as I'm rolling a bead, when I roll a bead, this leading edge is not as prone to dig into the opposing side.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I've not used a skew with a radius.
And again, that's just, it's my personal preference. I really like it.
Sure.
I learned from Nick Cook, the gentleman I took classes from. He swears by this chisel, and I've seen him do things that's unbelievable. But this is my preference.
All right. So where should we start?
Okay. Let's put a blanket wood on.
Okay.
Let me show you a couple of cuts. We'll do a roughing cut, which is a slicing cut, and then we'll do what we call a rapid peel cut.
Okay.
The goal is just simply to remove wood.
Gotcha. Okay?
So I've got a block of wood here, and I'm just going to find the center.
And what kind of wood are we
This
cutting?
is pine.
Pine.
This is
Okay.
southern pine. You can use the center finders,
mm-hmm.
And we've all used those. The only time I will use a center finder is if my material is the same diameter as my piece.
Ah.
If it's not, if I'm able to start with a larger blank of wood, I don't worry about finding the center because once I turn it around, it'll be center.
You're going to turn it center.
The only time I will do this if my blank is the same diameter as my piece, or if I have a project that has a pommel in it.
And this needs to be specific.
If this is not square, then these lines won't line up.
Right.
So you can use the center finder, Or a little tip, I just take my finger, push on the side here, and all I'm doing really is marking 4 edges, and it's more of a visual effect than anything. Now I've narrowed that area down.
Yeah. Now you just have to find center inside that
Exactly.
square, as opposed to this, you know.
That large blank, exactly. Okay, so I've got that mounted. Put my blanket there. I like to rest my left hand on the tailstock, gives me more control than trying to do it freehand.
Sure.
I bring my tailstock up. Lock it in place.
Now, can I ask you about the height of your rest? Where are you going to set your rest height?
I like to set my height. I want to be cutting about the center of the axis of the lathe.
Okay.
Now, depending on if I'm using this chisel versus this chisel, I'll probably be a little higher.
Okay. So you might go higher than center.
Yes.
Right.
And the fact that you're taller than I am, you would probably start higher than I would.
Okay.
So we've got the block of wood on. Let's start what we call a rough and cut.
And you want that rest really tight to that wood.
Absolutely. I want this to rest as close to my piece of wood that I can get to without touching it.
Okay.
In essence, I am constantly moving my tool rest. So I'll start with the oval skew.
Okay.
It's not good practice to start hollowing in the center of the blank. So I'm going to start here at the edge and work back. So I'm going to present my chisel and just come in and start making cuts. Each time I'm working back toward the opposite end. Doesn't matter which end you start at, left-handed or right-handed. Move my tool rest. And you can see the smooth cut it produces.
Very smooth.
Anytime my first contact with a spinning piece of wood, if it's the cutting edge only, I'm prone to catch. See, right? So when I come here and cut, see, my first contact's with the bevel. Then I raise the tool up and start my cut.
Ah, I see.
If I come here, as soon as I make a contact, it's with the cutting edge. So
right.
I said that to say it's prone to catch. So
I see what you're saying.
If you're going to do that, be careful. Now, a recommendation as I'm working down, instead of coming here, just turn back over and clean this up here.
That way you're not leading with your cutting edge.
Exactly.
You can lead with the bevel, bring your cutter into the wood.
That is correct. So I've done a basic roughing, but you've noticed my gap.
A lot bigger now,
A lot bigger now. So obviously I want to move closer. So that's one cut, which we would call a planing cut. All right, and then there's a cut which we call a rapid peel cut. Again, my goal is to get this square blank of wood to a round cylinder.
Okay.
With that, I like to use a flat skew.
Okay.
Because I'm laying it flat, it's going to rest securely on the tool rest versus the oval skew.
Right. Okay.
Now, some people may ask, well, why would you even use a rapid peel cut? Because it's faster. I'm never cutting with the full width of the chisel.
Okay.
Too much vibration. Chisel flat, and I'm just going to raise the handle, project the chisel into the wood. Again, just knocking the corners off. Look at it in terms I'm peeling a potato at 4,000 RPM. just wasting wood. Now, if I were to stop this lathe and look at it, it's horrible finish, torn grain. But I'm close to round. It's just going to save me a little more time. At this point, we'll do a planing cut. If you want to do it coming back, you can. Really Doesn't matter. Okay.
Beautiful.
Pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Can I show you the two, I think, the important techniques? If you'll learn these and remember these techniques, it will really help in eliminating a catch.
Okay.
For the most part, a lot of us will begin using a skew, like I was doing a pilling cut, and I jokingly tell people, if you like to sand, you will love this cut. Okay? See how rough it is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see people will come in and they want to roll a bead, and so they'll come in here, and that works if you want to roll a bead. Again, there's a lot of sanding.
Right.
Okay? So, if you notice, the rotation of the wood is going in this direction when it makes contact with the tool.
Mm-hmm.
When I was using the skew like this, it's nothing more than a scraping cut, but if you look here, the cutting edge is 90 degrees to the rotation of the wood. Okay. First thing I want to remember is this cutting edge needs to be on a 45-degree angle.
Right. Okay. That you're shaving.
Then you're shaving. You can see the difference, the wood coming off the chisel. See, I'm tearing it. So I want to present the chisel where the cutting edge is a 45-degree to the rotation of the wood, and then I only want to cut with about the bottom third of the chisel.
Okay.
All right. So, and you can see the difference in the wood. So I'm going to, again, this is using a scraping cut, and this is a shear cut. Cutting edge 45 degrees to the rotation of the wood, and I'm only cutting with the bottom third of the chisel. Now what happens is I'm going along here and I'm so impressed with myself that I'm able to do this, because then I don't pay attention and I'm going from 1/3 of the chisel to about 2/3 of the chisel, and the next thing I know, that's where the catch comes.
Gotcha.
So those two items, those two techniques, if you cut 45-degree angle and use the bottom third of the chisel.
So the catches are caused because you're grabbing the high side of the chisel?
Exactly. If we could get this result with the chisel flat on the tool rest, you would probably never have a catch.
Okay.
But because we have to bring the chisel up on its side, look at it in terms, I'm going to cut a wedge and put under my chisel here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I'm cutting with the bottom third, I'll come here so you can see. If I'm cutting with the bottom third, I have a gap from here to the wood.
Right.
So the higher I cut up on that point, the more
the easier it is
to catch.
Pull in and catch. Okay. So what other kinds of cuts can we do with this? We can do beads.
We can do beads. We can do coves. It's not nearly as efficient as using a spindle gouge, but it makes for an interesting demonstration.
All right. Okay. Can you show me?
Yeah. Let's roll a bead first.
Okay.
Okay. So what I would do is I take my pencil and I'm going to mark where I want my bead. Okay. So I'm going to roll a bead in those two lines. Lower my tool rest. First thing I'm going to do.
Now, why did you lower your tool rest?
Because that's a good question. I lowered my tool rest because when I start with making a V cut at each line, I'm leading with the long point.
Okay.
Okay, so that allows me to drop the handle and then raise the handle and project the point into the wood.
And if your tool rest was higher, it might catch in.
It would not necessarily catch. I just have to raise it.
You'd have to raise your handle high. Okay.
So I'm basically going to take my skew chisel, flat on the tool rest, my point straight on, put my point on the line, engage the wood, and just raise the handle. That's all I'm doing. Now I can sit there all day long and that's not going to cut any deeper.
Okay.
All that's doing is scoring my line. Come down here, do the same thing. Okay. Now on these two score lines, I'm going to come on each side and make a V cut. Okay, V cut is is exactly like it sounds. It's a V, okay? Whichever direction I'm cutting, I always want to point my handle towards that direction.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to cut this side of the V cut. I'm going to take my chisel in that direction, and then I'm going to tilt my chisel 1 minute before 12 o'clock. Okay, turn it over, engage the point into the wood, raise the handle. So
and again, you're just using the 1/3 of it.
1/3, exactly. So when I make my cut, I'm pointing my handle in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm beveling the chisel over to 1 minute before 12 o'clock. As soon as I make contact with the edge, I'm going to bring the chisel back to 12 o'clock.
Ah.
If I maintain that same angle, then I will be cutting from 1/3 to middle to
oh, I see. Yeah.
So I can't maintain that same trajectory. Once I start my cut, then I simply raise it back to 12 o'clock.
And you roll back into it.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So then now I'm going to cut this side. So I'm going to bring my chisel around. Now I'm going to turn my chisel 1 minute past 12 o'clock. Like that right there.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I make contact with the point, I'm going to raise the handle and take the chisel back to 12 o'clock. So there's a V cut. Okay. Now the reason I do that, let me go ahead and cut this V cut here. And I show you a lot in class, a lot of times people say, well, why do you roll a V cut? If I were going to roll a bead here, if I didn't have a V cut, when I started rolling my bead, the leading edge would dig in to the opposite side of my line.
So you'd undercut?
Yes, you'd undercut.
Okay.
Okay. So when I make a V cut, now that removes the waste on this side of the bead. Same here. When I roll my bead, now this leading edge will clear that section right there.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to roll a bead here. I've got my V cuts. Now I like to take a pencil and I will mark what I think is the center of the bead. Okay. I'm going to start my cut here on the edge and work back towards the center. Make contact flat on the tool rest. Make contact with the back of the bevel first. I'm raising my handle until I see dust coming over the bottom third. You see dust coming over?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to roll the chisel and raise the handle.
Ah, okay.
Same thing. And I'm going to come back on this side. And they're up there. Oops. Now, obviously, if I were rolling a bead here, it's a little more awkward. So here I'm keeping my hand on top of the tool rest. You want to try it?
Yes, please. Okay. What am I? Okay. What am I doing wrong?
You're not rolling the chisel. You have to raise the chisel and roll it at the same time.
Raise.
Yeah. So if you're cutting this side of the bead, you would raise
and roll it this way.
Yep. I love it when the pain comes through.
That worked.
There you go.
That's better.
Yep. Go ahead and stop the lathe. Let's look at your results. See how smooth that is?
Very.
Sandpaper would scratch that.
Yeah, it's super smooth.
Yes, it's smooth. That's the beauty of a skew.
Okay, so where would we go? Like, what's the next cut that we can learn from?
The next cut would be, let's incorporate the next couple of cuts into a project. We'll start with a square blank of wood.
Okay.
I'll show you the pommel cut, which is a cut that transitions from square block to round.
Okay.
Like a table leg, things of that sort, and then we'll do a couple of coves.
Okay, cool. Right. We're going to start with a new piece of wood then?
Yes, sir. New piece of wood. And in fact, I'll make a little candle holder.
This is what we're going to make.
That's what we're going to make.
Look at this.
The only thing that will...
Oh, yeah, look, your pencil line's still here.
The only thing that will touch that, the only chisel that will touch that will be a skew chisel.
Wow.
But because I have the pommel cut, this is imperative that I find the center
of
my block of wood. So I use my center finder. I like to mark all 4 corners.
Just in case it's not square?
In case it's not square. Like this piece right here. And the center of my 2 lines will be the center of my workpiece.
Yes, sir.
All 4 edges.
I'm going to set this back over here. Is that all right?
Yep, that's fine. And then I'll mount my blank of wood. Now I want to lay out my pommel cut. So basically when I lay out my pommel cut, I want 2 lines. I want a line where my pommel will end, which is here.
Okay.
And then I want a line where my pommel will start.
Okay.
Which is there. But when I'm cutting it, I do it reverse, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we'll set it right there, and let's bring it over here so I can mark it. So I'm going to put my first cut there. My second cut here.
Okay.
So that's the distance of my pommel.
Okay.
From here to the bottom of that bead.
Okay.
Okay. And then I want to put some straight lines on it. You can use a square, but if I've got a center finder here, that makes a good square. I'm going to strike 2 lines on 2 edges. You can mark all 4 corners. It's really not necessary because you can see it with just 2 sides.
You're doing 2 sides just so you can see it better?
Well, no, just to save time. A lot of people will mark 4 sides.
Okay.
See, I can see that line. If I start at a high speed, if I can't see it, slow your speed down.
Okay.
Okay.
But if you just did 1 side, it would be harder to see.
It'd be hard to see.
Okay.
Yep. So when I start my cut, my pommel cut, my first cut's going to be here, not here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm simply going to come here with the long point leading, and I'm going to score a line. The reason I do that is because sometimes when I score a line, it might chip the wood out. It didn't there, but if I had started my cut here and it chipped the wood out, then I've messed my pommel up.
I got you.
Okay. Now I will work back toward where my pommel in essence starts by simply rolling a bead.
Okay.
Now in my roughing stage, I will make my final cut on my pommel when I finish my project. This is just a reference or a rough out, if you will. Long point leading. So you can see where I'm starting.
Yep.
Okay. Check my progress. Okay, see I've got score line on flat.
Yeah.
I'm still not back to my line. That's okay, I'll finish up. I'll just go ahead and use this chisel I got in my hand with the short point leading. Again, if you want to cut coming back, you can. And then I'll flat spot there, clean this up. And then I'm going to take my skew chisel and clean the end grain. And you see the difference in the cut here in just a second. See the difference in the end grain?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So now let's lay out our project. So that's what we have right now.
Okay.
And then I'm going to lay it out. I'll take my dividers and I'm going to measure my width of my bead.
Okay.
Okay. Transfer that line there. The next profile is from this line to that line. And then this profile. From the top to the bottom of my bead.
Okay.
At every line, I'm cutting a V cut. Score. Score. Increase my speed. Now I need to roll a bead here, but obviously this chisel's too wide. So I will come with this smaller chisel, put my pencil line there.
So you always want to mark center on that bead.
Center of my bead.
Okay.
Now because of this bead being so narrow, you're using the skew chisel, the position of the chisel, my first contact would be with the cutting edge. So I would be prone to a catch. So what I'm going to do is take the chisel and very carefully rest it against the shoulder of the wood and use that as a fulcrum point. Then I can roll my bead. And come over here on this side. Now this side is not as tedious. A little more speed. All right. This will be my cove, so I'm just going to come in and waste the wood. Now, Eric, if I were doing this project, if this were a project that I wanted to keep, I would not cut this profile, that profile, and this profile with the skew chisel. It's not as efficient.
Okay.
I would use a spindle gouge.
Oh, okay.
But by using a skew chisel, it makes for an interesting demo.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
It can be done with a skew,
It can
right?
be done with the skew, yes. It's just not as efficient. Come here and take that circumference down a little.
That looks great. And it's all really just a combination of the same cut.
Same cut.
Just used different ways, right?
Exactly.
Wow. That's so cool. That's just great. It's amazing you can do all of this with just one tool.
One tool. Yes, a skew is a very versatile tool. It's just a matter of, when you build your confidence up, that's probably more important. You understand, hey, catches happen, try to eliminate them.
Yeah.
But it is a fun tool to work once you can get a little bit of technique down.
And it's just a combination of the same cuts over and over, just in various sizes and different engagement points.
That's correct. In any spindle, regardless of the shape, it's basically a combination of beads and coves.
Yeah.
Half a bead here and half a cove there. So.
That's awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate all the tips. And
Thank you, Eric.
I know it's going to make me a better turner.
It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.